check. Okay. How's it going?
Exists in both.
भाई मास्टरिंग करते वक्त मैक्सिमम का मास्टर का कंप्रेशन ऑफ रखना चाहिए क्या ऑन रखना चाहिए क्या मैक्सिमम का मास्टर का कंप्रेशन ऑफ क्या बोल रहे हो वेट या आर यू टॉकिंग अबाउट मैक्सिमस इट्स नॉट मैक्सिमम इट्स मैक्सिमस यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट राइट सी इट्स नॉट अबाउट ऑन एंड ऑफ यू पुटिंग अ कंप्रेसर ऑन और ऑफ or something like that but then ultimately everything depends on your mix. I mean if your mix is good still the use case of your compressor is going to be dependent on your whole mix. और हर एक गाना अलग तरीके से बजने वाला हर एक गाने में अलग टाइप के वाइब्स है राइट मैक्सिमम्स talking about MILF बहुत सिंपल से लैंग्वेज है without complicating it. If I take fruity limiter convert this into a compressor there's a button over here. You can switch between both. You can use this just as a limiter or you can use this as a compressor right. So now it's very simple to understand. There's a threshold which is basically an imaginary line which decides कि इसके ऊपर जो भी जाता है amplitude whatever amplitude goes beyond this वो कितने लेवल से कितने रेशियो से उसको कंप्रेस करना चाहिए. सो देयर इज अ रेशियो ओवर हियर व्हिच इज बेसिकली XYZ अमाउंट इज टू 1 यानी कि लेट्स से बेसिकली दिस इज राइट नाउ ऑन 2 ओके सो दिस इज 2 dBs इज टू 1 यानी कि यहाँ इसके ऊपर अगर 2 dBs जाएगा तो 1 dB से इसको कंप्रेस करेगा. गेटिंग इट. सो if there is a value which is going 4 dB then I'll get 2 dB output and if this is to the maximum so 20 dBs is to 1. So it's like 20 is to 1 का ratio आ गया यहाँ पे. So basically if there is 20 dBs going above this threshold तब मेरा compressor 1 dB का output देगा. Okay, by compressing that particular amount. So let's do a example over here. Okay, let's say this. Okay, so now I'll not put any threshold. You can see the waves. Okay, let's say I put the threshold right over here as I can see it. Okay, can you see the purple signal? That is the compressed signal. That is due to the ratio which I have applied to it. Now the same signal without changing the threshold, if I go let's say 10 or let's do 2 dBs. Okay, you'll see the change. Okay, so the ratio actually decides what level of compression will happen. But then ultimately जब आप एक पूरे ट्रैक का मिक्सिंग के बारे में बात करो जहाँ पे मल्टीपल ट्रैक्स है it will still depend on that one. See मास्टरिंग को तुम ऐसे सेट करके नहीं कभी मास्टर कर सकते कि अरे हाँ यही प्लगइन यूज़ करना है वही प्लगइन यूज़ करना है फिर ये डालना है फिर ऐसा कुछ लेट्स से you put a multi-band compression, you put a limiter over it or anything XYZ. ऐसा कोई सेटअप नहीं है उस चीज़ का. Ultimately if you're going to use this as your starting point and then you're going to make your whole song then it's understood. मतलब तुम्हारा ऑलरेडी मास्टर का एक चैनल रैक सेटअप है जैसे you can right click on this and let's say you can go to file and then you can find let's say general purpose mastering 3 for example. So this is a rack which you automatically get over here, which has a equalizer, parametric equalizer, second, then there's a multi-band compression, there's a stereo enhancer. Okay, अगर एक particular preset अगर आप master पे use करके continue कर रहे हो while you're making the song, then of course your mixing skills will decide कि किस तरीके से master जाएगा, right? But if you're starting off raw, where you're not using these master plugins, let's say for example you just have a limiter, example करना मत बट एग्जाम्पल सिर्फ एक लिमिटर है ताकि वो 0 dB के ऊपर ना जाए और कुछ भी नहीं डाला हुआ है. ओके इनको मैंने म्यूट कर दिया एंड देन यू स्टार्ट प्रोड्यूसिंग योर सॉन्ग लेटर ऑन. फिर तुम लोगों ने गाना बना दिया राइट एंड देन यू वेंट टू द प्रोसेस ऑफ मिक्सिंग कि तुम लोग मिक्सिंग कर रहे हो फिर इक्वलाइजर से एंड द फ्रीक्वेंसी विच यू वांट योर बूस्टिंग एंड ऑल वट एवर you're doing bus mixing on XYZ right. And then you're going to the master. It completely will depend on your mixing skills. So don't think of going back and forth unless you have a process in your head. Okay. अभी अगर आप simplification के लिए मेरा process पूछो तो सच में बताओ तो ये मेरे मूड के ऊपर because it is inspired by different things. As in हर एक गाना बनाने से पहले वो क्या चीज़ों के ऊपर inspired है वो ज़्यादा important है मेरे लिए. Let's say today I'm inspired by this sample. Okay, so I'll start making a track around this, मैं इसके इर्द गिर्द ही बीट्स बनाऊंगा, ड्रम लूप्स बनाऊंगा, या फिर साउंड डिजाइन करूंगा, पैड्स एंड बेस लाइन सब इसके इस सैम्पल के इर्द गिर्द, मतलब इंस्पायर्ड फ्रॉम दैट, ब्लूम्ड फ्रॉम दैट, मतलब वो उस झाड़ से बाकी के ब्रांचेस मैंने बनाया, तो वो झाड़ का जो मेन रूट है वो ये सैम्पल है, राइट। ये सेम चीज़ कोई भी चीज़ के ऊपर आ सकती है। अभी इसी सैम्पल की जगह पे even there's a drum loop also. Let's say I love this drum loop and suddenly I started getting an idea around it. So I'll start making ideas around that sample, understanding if I have a composition in my head and then I'm going to take, let's say if I take FL keys and then I starting or playing around on my keyboard XYZ. So I'll start producing the song around this. You getting what I mean? The inspiration coming from this composition, I'll develop around it ultimately. So this will also affect my mixing, because mixing में एक छोटे और rules भी set up होते हैं कि let's say your drums are the one which are going to be the loudest, so you know where to mix them, right? They'll be the loudest, and let's say all other instruments including your bass lines, your vocal shots or effect shots or whatever, they're going to be lower than that. Ultimately you know this thing, correct? And एक बार वो उनका leveling, basic leveling पता चल गया, and then you can go deeply, you start going more macro and micro, right, into the mixing skills. And then that actually creates a complete different master. तो अगर आप पे को stems भेजोगे, मेरे से mastering बहुत अलग निकलेगी. अब सेम stems किसी और को भेजोगे, उससे भी mastering complete अलग निकलेगी, depending on the mixing style. Plus, what is important in your song, you have to first pre-decide it. क्योंकि बहुत सारे गाने ऐसे जिसके kicks, drums, they are not upfront. The vocals are upfront because the vocals are supposed to be more gloomed out. So depending on your mixing style, depending on what is important in that particular song, अगर मेरे पास कोई एक example, okay, let's say for example I'm inspired by this. Of course it's not mastered, दिख रहा है ना, so ऊपर जा रहा है, it's crashing, it's not mastered. But then what I'm trying to tell now, this is in its like baby's stage, teenage stage में basically. So now I'll decide after this, once I'm done with the idea, whatever the idea is. Let's say for example I want to now highlight my leads, whatever these leads are, which are over here. Okay, and I've used a rift on this by the fucking amazing plugin. So now after that I'll decide, do I want my kick, which is on channel 1, to be the loudest one, which is 99% going to be the same case, or I want all my bassline frequencies, bass tones to also highlight in one particular section. So now depending on your project, ये सोच के चलोगे कि compression को कैसा रखना चाहिए, और मैंने एक तरीका बता दिया कि let's say for example fruity limiter, put it on compression and then put a threshold of at least let's say -5 dB, put a ratio to this, put an E set out to let's say 50%. So are you going to use this throughout all the songs that you're going to make? No, right? So everything depends on your listening skills and your mixing skills as well. So yes. So don't take it in a very premature manner. Just take it silently कि okay, it's all about your ears. Ultimately by end में जाके एक ही चीज़ है, तो तुमचे जर कानच नीट नहीं है, if you're not tuned your ears properly, if you don't understand the frequencies, now that can be XYZ things, like there can be a triangle. If your room is not good, but you have good set of monitors and you have good ears, still you will not be able to hear things properly because your room is not good, right? तुम लोग monitors लेके अगर bathroom में बैठ के produce करोगे तो of course you will not hear your frequencies as flat as possible. If you have good monitors, if you have good studio but your ears are not properly trained, again you would have an issue. If your ears are properly trained and your let's say your room is bad and your monitors are not that नकली सा लगा दिया तुमने, and then you're trying to master on it, then of course you're going to have, I'm not saying it will be completely bad, but there are going to be certain gaps. So it's like a triangle. So your ears need to be at least to an average level of training. your monitors need to be at least good. Like, I'm not saying that 1-2 lakh रुपए का खरीद लो, Genelix and Focals and whatever. No, even like KRK is all good. Yamaha HS8 or HS5 is all good as well. And your room is decently acoustically treated. So this also decides overall. Jail.